Well, it was a matter that started over seats, but it has since gone beyond that and degenerated somewhat into that of sexual harassment. Senator Natasha Akpabio has been in the eye of the storm since the incident which happened 2 weeks ago on the floor of the National Assembly, where she was reported to have refused to move her seat after she was reallocated. She had granted an interview to another media house, not Channels Television, where she alleged that the Senate president, upon pressing as to some of the things that she said on the floor of the Senate when she refused to move, such as, I'm not afraid of you. When she was pressed on that statement as to why she made it, then she made an open revelation of a situation of sexual harassment, alleging that she had been harassed by the Senate president on the occasion of his birthday sometime in 2023. That has now degenerated into a maelstrom of some sorts, with different parties seeking to intervene, fellow senators granting their own interviews, as well as other members of the public. But one of the very prominent interventions that we have now seen is a statement by Womanifesto, which is a convening 350 women's group. They have now put out a statement there, calling for certain things on this particular matter. We've also seen the intervention of a former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, who is asking for an open and transparent hearing into what is going on in the National Assembly, because he is afraid for the reputation of the National Assembly. The Chief Whip, the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate, has responded to some of those things, which we'll take as time goes on. But please do let me introduce my guest this morning. Dr. Abiola Akinode is here with us in the studios. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
I also understand that we have another guest in Lagos. Ayo, I'll let you do the honors.
Monday Ubani is here with us. He is a senior advocate of Nigeria, after many other accolades. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Well, okay, I think we should do the ladies first thing this morning.
So, Dr. Akinode, you have your group, Womanifesto, has released, you say you are a coalition of over 350 women's rights groups. So I imagine that, all of you have come together to release this particular statement. And the title simply says, National Assembly Imbroglio. Nigerian women demand a public hearing. That is at the heart of what it is that you're demanding. Part of what you say the past few days have tested the pulse of Nigeria's commitment to uphold the integrity of the Nigerian Constitution, specifically the National Assembly. You also say that at this stage we consider this initial response. Yeah, you're talking about the Ethics and Privileges Committee. You say you understand that the original conflict was referred to the Committee on Ethics, Privileges and Public Petitions for disciplinary review. At this stage, you consider this initial response by the Senate as no longer adequate to assure concerned Nigerians that the fact of this unprecedented crisis will be transparently unearthed and resolved. This is your statement, and it will seem that it is in support of Senator Natasha Akpabio. But there are those who will say that in this sort of sensitive matter, is an open hearing to the favor of somebody who actually makes his allegations?
Well, open hearing is important because we're concerned about the country as a whole. This is an allegation against number 3 in the entire nation. And of course, it's an issue that has become public. So it's important for us to have an open hearing so that it's transparent. There is a challenge about the committee in the National Assembly, the National Assembly Committee. And of course, people are also afraid of the likely bias that, they might have, on this issue. So having a public hearing allows for everybody to see, and they do that. So it's not like the first time that we're calling for that. We see several things that is being done at the National Assembly, which has been heard live. So because this is an issue that concerns, and sexual harassment, we remember the Me Too, at the international level, and other sexual harassment issues that has even happened in this country. The permanent secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was removed for that issue. So if such a huge allegation has been made against a principal officer, number 3 in this country, everybody wants to know, how is this going to go? Especially because we also know that we don't have an effective or efficient response system in this country that could be unbiased or accountable. And that's why let all of us see, just like any other panel, that they've held, in the National Assembly. So, and that's why we're asking that there should be a public hearing that should allow for accountability, for transparency, for an open discussion on this, so that people can see how the issue will be resolved publicly.
When I started this conversation, I did say it was a matter that started over seats.
Yes.
Seating arrangement was what, initially was the situation. And, even a lot of people did think that it was not proper to be moved without notification, etc., etc. But we've since been told that this is Senate rules. This is how they operate in the Senate. I mean, we heard Senator Ireti Kingibe say that her own seat has been moved 4 times. Do you think, I mean, there are those who are alleged, I'm reading the statement of the chief whip now. He is saying that this is an attempt to detract from the particular matter which, was initially, I'm trying to see if I can get the exact words. He says that, he says it's a matter that was sought to detract from the original situation. I mean, when the former Senate President Bukola Saraki wrote, asking for this open hearing, given his own instance, he tried to differentiate between the two and say, no, the accusations against former Senate President Bukola Saraki was in his position as Senate President, but that this is against, it would seem, the person of Senator Akpabio. I don't know whether you make any differentiation there.
Well, but I really don't see any difference there. One, because Senator Natasha is there as a distinguished senator, and this happened during, a tenure, as a senator. And I think that's why it's important for us to be clear when it comes to the issue of sexual harassment. Sexual harassment is a grave allegation, and oftentimes we always look at the law aspect of it. In terms of, what is the evidence that you have when sexual harassment, is being alleged? And so I hear people say maybe she doesn't have any evidence and all of that, but that's not correct.
Let me quickly read that statement. He says, in contrast, what we have, this is the statement of Senator Onyekachi Peter Nweboyi, who was the Senate Deputy Chief Whip. He says, in contrast, what we have before us today is a case of personal, unsubstantiated, and conveniently timed accusations, claims of sexual harassment that supposedly took place over a year ago, but surfaced only after the accuser was summoned for disciplinary action. There was no prior complaint, no record of distress, no mention to her husband, and no disclosure to female colleagues in the Senate. Instead, the accusation was unleashed only at the point of reckoning in a desperate attempt to divert attention from legitimate disciplinary proceedings. These are his words.
But with due respect to the senator, that does not lie in his mouth. Because oftentimes it's the person that is harassed, and there's no time limit. There's no time limit. So it's also possible that the way the conversation on that day, comfort, to Senator Natasha was, oh, you think this is the way you can get me after you have made several overtures and I have turned you down, and now you're coming, to do this to me as a way of punishment. And we know that this happens, a lot. So I would say that senator is not in a position to be able to say that. It is a person that is harassed that have the ability, to be able to say, I am harassed. It is not like any other offense where it is something that people can say the allegation must be proven. There are several ways you can prove sexual harassment. The history of the perpetrator also matters. And I am saying that from what we saw in terms of record, this is not the first time that sexual harassment allegation is made against the Senate President. So if a second or a third person then made the same thing, then I think as a country, it becomes very important for us to see it as something that is valid that we should deal with. And rather not make it to say, let's sweep it because it's coming at a point in time when an issue was raised about the seat. Whether an issue was raised about the seat or not, an allegation has been raised. And I think that as a country, we better focus on, that allegation. So what he's saying, it doesn't lie in his mouth, because it's not the one that is being sexually harassed. And we know that women are very vulnerable, to sexual harassment. So when you get to a level where that has happened to you, you can raise it at any time. So for me, you could also read meaning to what happened on that day. An outburst was not a natural outburst that, somebody like Senator Natasha would do. So it could also be that that was a background, behind it. And that was why she had to, and, she said it on that day, that she has a lot to say, and I cannot be silenced. So meaning that there were also other things, behind what she put forward, on that day. And for me, that is the issue. So it doesn't lie in that distinguished Senator Smart to say that maybe it is the time has gone or maybe it was a distraction. What distraction? It was an allegation. So then allow her time to prove it. And so it doesn't have to be also something that you have to, people are talking about recording and all of that. You don't need a tape recorder. There are circumstantial evidence, and I am saying that as long as you can also prove that there is a history of sexual harassment that is being put against the perpetrator for a while, that's circumstantial evidence, and there are other ways. You can use psychological expert. People can use, and who says she doesn't have evidence? So let's wait and see.
Well, let me go to Mr. Monday Oyinkachi-Ubani. I'm sure that he has been watching a situation with keen interest. Mr. Oyinkachi-Ubani, I'm sure that, you also have your own, opinion, your viewpoint on this particular issue. These are some of the requests that are now being made to the Senate of Nigeria, that there be an open investigation into these allegations. Is it something that you will support, this call for open investigation?
Yeah, Maokwe, thank you once again for having me. The position of things is that Mrs. Abiola, Dr. Abiola, my good friend, knows that if you have a grievance, a genuine grievance against any person in any institution, there are procedures. Now, asking for open investigation, nobody's against open investigation. The complainant, as a complainant, put any of these complaints before any appropriate channel, or you use the television house, to make wide allegation, and then you are now demanding open investigation. Who constitute that open investigation? Have you been able to channel your grievance or whatever is you are wrong, to that appropriate channel? There are committees, internal mechanism within which to look at this issue. Have you been able to write, or even to the Nigerian police, or to any other security agency? When we're talking about, you see, I have seen that rationality has taken a flight, and we are debating over issues that, to me, shouldn't, we shouldn't bother ourselves about, because the proper procedure has not been followed in the first place. She was mentioning, Dr. Abiola was mentioning that Dr. Akpabio, distinguished Senator Akpabio, has been accused, by somebody before. Then if you are bringing issue of character, the complainant that is bringing this issue has also accused 4 persons, politically exposed individuals in this country, of sexual harassment, and did not provide any iota of evidence. The last was even that of Reno Omokri, who have issued a statement. If not that the man had travel plan, travel arrangement, evidence of how he was not in the country at the time he was alleged to have sexually harassed Senator Natasha, he would have been in deep, but Nigerians would have also called for his head and all that. So what we're saying is that if you're asking for investigation, have you reported this matter to the appropriate authority, to the appropriate channel? Let the right thing be done. And then things will take, the normal thing will take its course, But this issue of rationality taking a flight, a lot of sentiment being branded all over the place, to me, it will not in any way help this matter. Let the proper thing be done. You have asked a question. What brought all this? That your seat was rearranged. And the next thing you did was that you went to break it the following day. Then the other day, you now told us all of us should stay awake because we are going to release a bombshell. I was expecting for you to show evidence of the fact, according to you, that you have been denied all the opportunities in the Senate because of the fact that you were, you are being harassed and all that. So one would have wanted that evidence, in the next television interview, but it wasn't. The next thing we hear about, you should come and make me happy. I'm the head of the this and all that. And then the whole world now is going gaga. The man must resign. There must be an open investigation. Please, the proper thing to do in the circumstance, the proper thing to do at this point in time is that if Senator Natasha has any complaint whatsoever, which she has now suddenly remembered since 2023, no problem. Let's channel those complaints through appropriate channel, and then the normal thing will take its course. We have senators who are responding to this, And at the end of the day, it is the institution that will resolve the matter. It's either the judiciary or the Senate. But the public cannot be the one to resolve this particular allegation. That is my take. And that's my advice. If she receives quality advice, let she follow the proper procedure and put her complaint before appropriate channel. And that will solve the entire problem. And also give her justice she really desires. That's my take.
I'm just a little curious. I mean, because this matter, we already know that, sexual harassment is something that is very delicate. And it's a grievous one. Because this is an accusation against the Senate president, number 3 man of the country, coming from no less than another senator, a sitting senator as well. From your own analysis now, don't you think that it is in the best interest of all the parties, of especially the accused, whose wife, because the Senate president has not released any statement that I am aware of, but I do know that his wife has granted a TV interview, and she has also gone ahead to sue Senator Natasha Akpabio. I'm just wondering, do you think that don't you think that it is in his own interest that he comes out and let there be a clarity, let there be an investigation, an open investigation into this matter, so that no one is in doubt as to, his innocence in this particular issue?
Well, I've made myself very clear. I'm saying this issue of sexual harassment was only relayed to Nigerians on a national television. She belongs to an institution, and that institution is the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. If there is any complaint against any member or against the Senate president, let it be properly channeled. That's what I'm saying. If you don't channel your complaint properly, that nobody's going to pay attention to it. She's alleging sexual harassment, and it's coming up for the first time since 2023, and this was done on a national television. She's a member of the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Let she bring her complaint formally and say, this is what I have suffered in the hands of this man presiding over the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And from there, the senators will begin to take the appropriate, or she goes to court. Because
so,
you have mentioned, let me finish. You mentioned that the issue of sexual harassment is a grave matter. I don't have any issue with that. Now, there are rooms, opportunities, and ways for you to seek redress. If it is within an industry, there is always that internal mechanism to resolve issue of sexual harassment. Or you go to court. If you are sexually harassed, to ask for compensation or damages. Or you can also ask for an injunctive relief, for restraining that person from sexually harassing you. There are so many, there are other countries where they have other, bodies that are also set up in order to address matters like this. I'm saying, but you must present your matter first and foremost appropriately through the appropriate channel. You don't go on national television, Nigerians should stay awake in order to hear you, and the next thing is that, the Senate president asked you to make him happy, and that everyone is running up and down and all that, and making a mountain out of nothing. So I'm saying, let she channel that complaint appropriately. We are going to follow it up. Now that she has come to this thing, let she now channel it, and then let us see whether this matter will not be resolved. Or she goes to court. That is what I'm trying to say. There are provisions under the law for you to seek redress for any sexual harassment. Please, over this matter, I am still saying that she has not received quality advice, and to do the right thing, let she channel her complaint appropriately, and it shall be dealt with. That is what I feel, and that is what I know. Okay.
I'm sure that part of what you're looking at as the appropriate channels will be through the Senate. Is that correct?
I have mentioned there is she can also go to court. Now, it can even lead to criminal, investigation if there is any assault or any criminal act, acted by the individual, the accused person in the course of that sexual harassment. She can also initiate any criminal prosecution. But I'm saying there are options available let she put up a proper complaint to the appropriate authority, and that is Senate, or go to court, or initiate a criminal prosecution. That is the right thing to do. But coming on television to announce it, and up to now, there is no appropriate authority that have received that complaint, it will not be redressed. She seeks justice.
I highlighted the Senate I highlighted the Senate for a reason, because right now we have a statement from the Deputy Chief Whip, who clearly is very unhappy, with the steps that Senator Natasha has taken. And if we're to take some of the statements that he has made, parts of the statement that he has made, which are very, very strong, alleging that she's only trying to, run away from or detract from the consequences of what she was, attempt to divert attention from legitimate disciplinary proceedings. Those are his words. And then he also, says in other parts of the statement, if we're to take, Senator Saraki's argument to its logical conclusion, we will be establishing a dangerous precedent, one where any gold digger or habitual liar can throw out an unsubstantiated allegation and expect the Senate to come to a halt while they're entertained. Now, I sincerely hope not that it is not his fellow colleague that he's referring to like this. But these are the words of the Deputy Chief Whip of the Senate. Do you think that within the Senate, where she's been referred to the Ethics and Privileges Committee, she can get fair hearing?
The matter is now in public space. She has brought it out. But I think, as I said earlier, my advice to distinguished Senator Natasha is to channel her complaint through the appropriate channels, one of which is to the Senate, where she belongs, because she was elected as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And they have rules, and regulation that is guiding that institution. So if she has that complaint, let she channel it there. She can also report to the security agencies. And it's not only, limiting it to only Senate. Now, the point the Deputy Chief Whip was making is like, up to today, that complaint has not been brought. What is before the Senate is the complaint against her behavior, during proceedings that has gone to Ethics and Privileges Committee. If she brings her own complaint today, that matter also will go to the Ethics and Privileges Committee, because she's alleging that her privileges have been breached. They will look into it. It does not mean that they will conclude and not give her a fair hearing. What is before the Senate, which is what the man is emphasizing, is this is a complaint against her of her misbehavior in the House. So that is what is before the Senate. But if she has any complaint, let she bring it appropriately and it will be dealt with. Or she can go to the police. She can go to any security agency and all that. She can also, seek redress in the court. Yes.
Does the processes of the Senate?
Yes.
One of the issues that has also been raised is, that there are other women in the Senate.
Yes.
Are there people who also have had such similar situations that you can recall?
Almost 3 of them have spoken, and they said they have never been sexually harassed. They were even alleging that she has received more privileges, because I think why she came to the open to allege this issue of sexual harassment is that, according to her, she has been denied several privileges. She has been bullied. She has been tormented in the House because of her. That's what she said. Now, that's why
is it correct?
No, that's not true, because they denied all the women. There are other 4 senators there. There are 4 female senators. She's only one of them.
Okay.
Now, 3 of them have come to speak in favor that there has not been such sexual harassment, against them. And they have never had any issue, of being bullied in the House. So if I'm saying that she has one, because it can happen, it could have happened to her, let she channel that complaint to her appropriate channel. That's all. What she's doing is not the proper thing. And I think she's not receiving quality advice.
Let me ask, Dr. Akiode, this formality that Dr. Ubani is talking about, a formal presentation, a formal complaint and all of that, do you see any value in it?
Well, first let me first respond to some of the things that the learned sick had raised. One, saying that she's making a mountain out of nothing. I don't think that's correct, because that's quite dismissive. And oftentimes, that's what we see when people raise issues and allegations of this nature. So people try to downplay it as if it is not necessary, and that it's a blackmail. So, and you can see that pattern also coming up. And so where you have such patterns, there is also that issue about whether justice can be gotten in that, regard. Yes, the question of formality, it's one issue, and who says she's not going to do it? So even if she did it yesterday or today, it will make a difference. But she's already in the public, and the House, the Senate itself is also responding to her. So meaning that it's right before them. In other countries, I think that what we should be talking about, especially because of the kind of standard that we expect from the Senate. As a Senate leader, you have been accused of an allegation that is as grievous as that. In other countries, we even step down and say, yes, an allegation has been made against
Well, madam, there were other issues,
your
if you can hear me, madam. There were other issues before this allegation came to the open. One of the issues is the Senate rules and all of that. At the end of the day, it's about the integrity of the National Assembly, the Senate here in question. And those issues, a good number of people have spoken about the fact that, the rules were breached one way or the other. And that this issue that we're talking about now is a kind of response, as Malcolm also quoted earlier, that, okay, there is a need for certain rules to be set right, but then the Senate is the senator is bringing up these other issues one way or the other for public sympathies and all of that. However, there is also the case, as Dr. Ubani has pointed out, and a number of other people as well, that there is no formal complaint either to the police, to the courts, even to the Senate.
But the point I'm raising is that formality, as important as it might stand, but to us and the public, we feel that the Senate President has been indicted in a particular issue, and there should be a response, from the Senate, to this. Then secondly, there are a lot of issues that have been raised by the learned stake. One of the issues is, I asked the question, as we speak today, is there any procedure in the National Assembly that deals with the issue of sexual harassment? I know that at a point in time they had what they call this gender policy. And what we would have expected, that would have given procedures with which people can take, to, report sexual harassment. I'm not sure that the National Assembly has that. Maybe under the assumption that maybe things like that are not happening. And the issue you raised about the other three senators not mentioning it, it's not very valid. The fact that three people didn't mention, if I am the one that is being harassed, I have a right to mention it. So she has mentioned it. The formality of it can be perfected, but that does not remove the fact that, she has an allegation and she has put that allegation on the table. And one would expect that to be an issue that will trouble, the National Assembly, because it's troubling the citizens. And the citizens feel that, the Senate President need to respond to this issue. And the Senate as a whole must take this as a very important issue. And let me also say, this is not the first time that we're seeing it in the National Assembly. I could recall that when Senator Oluremi Tinubu was there, she was also harassed in this manner, openly and publicly. So if you have a system that tolerates and, approve of this kind of harassment, so if it happens to you, if you don't know what to do, and I could also recall that at that point in time, when Senator Renioli Tinubu was going to report, there were a lot of things that happened. People were making jest of her and other things. So people are faced with this kind of thing. So we need to understand the vulnerability of women, especially when it comes to the issue of sexual harassment. And before we say, Jack, people are saying, bring evidence, especially when this is one offense that does not come with a lot of evidence in that regard. I can sit with you in a place and you can harass me there. Should I carry video and record that everywhere I go? And that's why I'm saying that in other countries, from what we saw with the movement of on sexual Me Too, we have realized that there will be other things that we need to add up to the evidence so that women who are vulnerable to sexual harassment are not abused, and there's nothing that is being done in that regard.
Okay, Dr. Abiola, I'm going to ask you to hold your thoughts. We quickly need to go to Rivers State now, where our correspondent Charles Opurom is standing by. I see that he's in front of the makeshift House of Assembly to give us an update on what precisely is happening, since the governor has now said that he's going to be abiding by the Supreme Court ruling. Good morning, Charles. What exactly is the situation in Rivers? Is it calm, or what are the reactions so far?
Good morning, Malkwe. So I am here in the Rivers State House of Assembly quarters, where the Rivers State House of Assembly have been meeting ever since their facility was demolished 2 years ago. There is a sitting for this morning. We were informed this morning that there was going to be a sitting. In fact, while I was waiting, I saw the Speaker, Right Honorable Martin. I'm able to just drive in. Members of the Assembly are seated around, waiting for for the House to convene. But generally, the atmosphere is calm. I drove past Obiakpo Local Government Council. There was nothing there, just some security operatives around. We did not see anything, but we are expecting some sort of, a disagreement or some kind of arguments at the local councils, because the former chairman said that the Supreme Court judgment has brought them back automatically, while the governor has instructed the heads of the local government administrations to take over office pending when RISIEC conducts another local government election. And then, to even make it more complicated, we hear that they also given a judgment in regards to the last set of local government chairmen who were elected during the tenure of the former governor, Honorable Rotimi Amici. And they are implying that now they are the ones who are empowered to come and take over. So it seems like there are three sets of local government chairmen who are laying claim to the local government at the moment.
Yeah, what the House of Assembly will be sitting on this morning.
They've been very tight-lipped. I tried to informally ask one or two of them, and they said, "Don't worry, you'll see." Yeah. So, well, I can't force them to reveal what they'll be sitting on, but definitely it's going to come out in the next 1 hour or thereabouts. But I'm here, and definitely I'll be reporting on what is transpiring here at the Assembly.
All right, thank you very much for your update, Charles, our correspondent, Charles Oporum, in the quarters of the legislators in Rivers State, giving us an update on the situation in the state. Charles, do stay safe, and of course, we'll be expecting timely updates from you as usual. Well, back here now, Doctor, I was just going to ask you, where does this leave all of us? It's a shame that this is happening. These allegations have now come in the month of March. I mean, they were made late February. They have now entered the month of March, where women are the highlight, at the forefront. Advocacy around women issues are at the forefront. I mean, your statement raised the issue of dismal representation at the National Assembly. 4 women out of 109 senators, 14 House of Reps members out of 360, really, really poor. So for you, do you think that this makes a case for women, or do you think that it detracts from a case for women?
Well, yes. The reality of that is that, of course, we're in a world that is patriarchal in nature. And of course, so what people want to do is to use this to say, oh, yeah, is this how, if we bring more women into the Senate, is this what would happen? But I still feel that that's not enough reason for women not to speak out, because that's one of the first things, particularly when it has to do with issues of sexual harassment, ability and the courage to speak out and let people know what is happening to you. As we speak today, let the Senate bring anything out that shows that, because you can't treat sexual harassment like other issues of privileges or whatever you have in your rules. There should be a clear-cut reporting mechanism for sexual harassment, because it's a different kind of offense. It's a different kinds of misconduct, And as we sit here today, I'm not sure that the National Assembly has anything, whatsoever that points you to what to do when you are sexually harassed. So my point is that there are a lot of reforms that needs to be done within the National Assembly. And so we should not use it and just dismiss the case as a matter that didn't come. Like, also look at the issue of the seat. There are a lot of issues there. The Senate President is first among equal. Do they think it's fair and just that you don't have a right to also say, this is where I want to sit? Or someone can wake up in the morning and just remove you from your seat. So it might be a procedural thing. But when we get to a level and we see, even Senator Akpabio himself has been a victim of that before. So if we then get to a level and we see it, that there is a problem with this law that we have made, or rules that we have made, we should be able to own up to say, yes, there's something wrong with this. Let us respond to it. So that's one point that we think is important for the National Assembly, to take home from this. The second issue is the issue of there's no sexual harassment policy or rules. You don't know who to speak to. Should she have gone to report to the Senate President himself, who is being alleged, so who else should she write to? There is nothing clearly. I am sure if they put a Google search on the National Assembly rules, sexual harassment will not come up as one of the things in their order. So they need to go back, and do that. And one would also expect, thirdly, that if she can formalize it today, so if that's what is required. So if she does that formalization, so what next? One would expect that the Senate President should step down for the period of the investigation. And the Ethics Committee should add this as one of the things that they are supposed to look at.
Mr. Ubani, you know, some people say that there are so many issues before Nigerians, pressing issues which the National Assembly should be sitting on, and that this should not take too much time. How quickly would you advise the Senate to get this over and done with in a matter that, in a way that is satisfactory to all Nigerians? Legit
question. I think, as I said earlier, it's a distraction because the productiveness of the housing has been undermined. I mean, this is a house recently created all the development commissions of the various regions. This is a house that just passed the 2025 budget. This is a house that also passed the student loan bill, you know, that has been signed into law and which is being implemented and captured in the new budget. There are so many things that the house is doing. This is clearly a distraction. But I think, as I said earlier, if this woman has, distinguished senator let she channel it appropriately. This issue of, because somebody, let me finish that, somebody makes an allegation. Let me just round this statement now, round up this statement. Like somebody makes an allegation, you now ask somebody to resign and all that, you know, I don't think that is appropriate, you know, demand at this point, unless she produce evidence, you know, the evidence is very key. Well, because any person can be a victim.
Yeah,
Ayo can be a victim, even in this workplace, you can be a victim.
In 30 seconds, if you can just say this. You already have a position on this matter because you already wrote some weeks ago, about a week ago, that she should apologize.
Of what transpired in the house, you know, because, you know, before you become a senator, there is age. 35 years upwards. It's a place for matured people. You must have done things in life, and then this is a place for people who are really matured. At that place, people came to her and said, please, madam, take it easy. She refused, and she was shouting and screaming and all that, and I felt that is not parliamentary. So for that, she has to say, I'm sorry. Akpabio did. But when Akpabio was, you know, really brought to the knowledge of the fact that he was wrong, he apologized to his... So I wanted her to say, I am sorry for what I have done. If you have this complaint now, channel it appropriately. That's all. Don't begin
again,
to... The public cannot be the one to judge this matter.
Well, the public has already held a position. Because even the president of the Senate respects the public opinion on this. We have to thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ayo, for having me. Thank you, Maokwe.
Advocate of Nigeria. Maokwe.
Thank you so much, Ayo. We also had with us here Dr. Abiola Akinode-Afolabi, who is the co-convener of Womanifesto. Thank you so much for coming on, ma'am.
Yeah, so let me just say quickly, the issue of women is not a distraction. And I would not want that to go like that. It is an issue that is important for this country. It's not a distraction. I'm sorry, let it stick.
Thank you very much. Well, that's where we have to wrap up today's edition of Sunrise Daily. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Maokwe Ogun Yusuf.
Beautiful day. I'm Ayo Makinde.